Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy channel. My name is Jed. Welcome. We are at the point in the book where Socrates has said, hang on a second, maybe there is a new class of man that doesn't fit into either of our camps, either Jesus' believers or Socrates' understanders. Maybe there is a new class of man and both Socrates and Jesus will become followers of them. And if you've been reading along with us, maybe you can be in that class, that new way of being that dooms all other ways of being. All other ways of being, well, not needed anymore. Holy crap. Can you imagine? Well, I hope you've been wondering about that since the last episode. The last few episodes we've been reviewing what the dream maker must know and how our dreams function to us and why dream analysis is necessary for our life. For the three primary things we can do here. We can use our thinking to reflect on the model of thinking and know mind itself, which is experienced as the brilliant light of pure being, and also within it, provided you've reached this experience through understanding, you can recognize a map of everything, of all spiritual development, and the purpose or destiny to which everything moves. You could also use your thinking to revert on not thinking itself or the model of thinking, called ousia, by the way, because your mind knows itself. You could revert upon the self, of which mind or the brilliant light of being is a shadow. Self is reflected as a shadow into pure mind, and the highest use of the mind is the self generating each moment, each thought, each dream, and bringing along with it everything from the prior moment with reference to the map of everything. Oh my goodness. And it's through dreams we can verify this model. The third hypothesis, or the film strip model. There is an instant without qualities, and somehow it moves through all qualities all at once, knowing it instantaneously as the map for everything, and uses that map to create the next moment, the next thought, your next dream, most providentially, most appropriate to your own soul's stage of development within that map of the whole. Holy crap. So it's in this way that, as was said in the text, the one becomes the all in the movement from the instant into the now, and the all becomes one in its return. And what's fascinating about this is it's the highest functioning of self, but it's also the most immediate. It's the most transcendent and yet the most personal. So our highest stage of being is right in front of us, to quote Socrates. Holy crap. So, it's through dreams that we get the personal information for those three activities, using our thinking to perfect our thinking, reverting on the model of thought itself, our high states of mind or insight, using our thinking to revert on the self, which is even more primary, the whole without parts, and the third activity to revert upon an unsuspected false model of mind or reality and an unsuspected false model of self that we call belief. That's the root cause of all of our problems. Because while the only real thing we can do with our thinking is to revert upon these two kinds of models, we're doing it anyway, only on a fake model. So we're already expert meditators, only we've been meditating on something false. Pretty neat. So, we can verify this model because our dreams come to being from a nothingness when we sleep. And our dreams, when reflected upon, can show, well, all three of those things. It can give us high states of mind that can be reflected on. So in the activity of dream analysis, we're reflecting on the gap between each moment in our waking life. It's a kind of practice for seeing the self in the gap. And by following a series of questions about our high states of mind, we're engaged in bringing back into experience what we may have forgotten or discarded, our high states of being, and also cultivating an understanding of it, which will allow for its higher experience and integration. Equally so, we can get states of self. So we call that mind knowing itself, or ousia, turning about to know itself. We call that the penultimate spiritual experience, because the knowing of the self, that's even the cause of that, as that is its shadow, is the ultimate. The qualityless instant in the gap. That's where we are. But then Jesus came along and said, well, who in Socrates' tradition has brought all this together the way that we've been doing it in this conversation? Socrates said, well, Damascus. But for reasons you and I know, he hasn't done midwifery on his problem. He wasn't able to integrate this recognition of the necessity and importance of dreams into his model. Is that what makes this way of being that we are bringing to light new? Because Socrates goes on and says, hang on a second. What if there was a new class of man that goes beyond everything prior to it, that would make even you and I, Jesus and Socrates, followers of this kind of person? So that's our question today. What is this new kind of man that makes all others obsolete? Pretty neat. Pretty neat to have a way of being that can unify humanity. No one getting excluded. No fake hierarchies that justify the exploitation or enslavement of another group because they are naturally lesser. They're not Christian, they're not a Jew, they're not white, they're not rich, they're not born into wealth. All of this horse shit that justifies the injustice and the indignity towards our fellow man. We can drop all that crap in a new way of being that doesn't exclude anyone and makes all other ways of being that are based on belief or division, family, clan, loyalty to ignorance, savage, zombie-like, barbaric bullshit, redundant. Exciting. What is this new way of being? How can we do it? Let's jump in. So how we choose to act affects that passing, the passing of time. Because how we choose to act and whether or not we're choosing to reflect and contemplate on those two models, mind itself, self, and our dreams, affects the next moment and what is being provided to us for our development. So our choice to reflect on mind, self, and dreams affects reality. That's pretty neat. In the moment, it's possible to act, and in acting, we affect a reality that underlines all that is. And it is this that changes through our reflections and contemplations. There we go. It carries the soul along, assuming our particular spiritual growth and development. We call this ousia. Some people call it a substance. Yet that word substance doesn't carry all the meanings we have found central to the idea of ousia. Ousia and the activity that springs from it form a unity. So that turning about on that model and the natural overflowing or activity that springs from it, we could call ousia. Now we've also recognized the word logos. The intelligible logos binds all this together, but is also the source. The name of the craftsman that fits precisely based on the past conditions within a profound internal integrity, crafting precisely each thing, each thought, each perception in the next moment. That craftsman is the logos. Also carrying along your own internal wishes and goals into the next moment. So does the logos engage in ousia reflection on the model? Is the activity that flows, the excellence, as we've been saying, if we do revert upon the model, we gain the excellence of that thing. The best you match your, skateboarding to Tony Hawk. The best you match your painting to the model you have in mind or the model modeling for you, the more excellent your activity will be. So in this gap, oh, by the way, it's in our reflection and contemplation and the development of understanding that shapes our own inner experience. So while it's fun and it's great and it's worthwhile to have these experiences, it's our understanding we develop from our dreams, from our high states of mind, from our reflection on our problems that affects us. That's how we can change. That's how we affect reality. That's how we affect our soul's development. That's what we're here for. There is an intelligence in that gap, which doesn't have any qualities, but is the source of all qualities, that instantaneously reverts upon the map of all spiritual development, as well as identifying each soul and each thing and providing for its continuity with the next step in its path to fulfilling its purpose or destiny. That's justice, which reflects truth, the hallmark of creation. And it's this instantaneous recursiveness, knowing yourself instantaneously and knowing the map or model instantaneously and knowing everything, all souls and things instantaneously, and unfolding from that this recursive functioning in a unified way for the unfolding of the cosmos that brings into existence each moment is a reflection of all of those higher principles in those models in each microsecond. And it has the power to unite everything. That's what we're after. How do we unite our psyche with self, with mind? From a manyness to a oneness. By the way, this is a creative activity called ousia that unifies according to that model of oneness, but even that model of pure mind is a shadow of the one. So the one or the one self is a shadow. It casts a shadow into pure mind, which reverts upon itself and reflects the highest principles in every microsecond in creation. And it's that which we are turning ourselves to as the only real use of understanding, of our thinking, of our life, really. As everything else, as our excellence is derived from that reversion, and our ability to function in a just way is too. So in this way, the one becomes the all and the all becomes the one. The intelligence we call mind. Damascus got close to putting it all together, and that's where we are. We also mentioned we can verify all of this in our own personal experience by doing dream analysis. Whoops. Hit the wrong button.
You're only wrong until you're not wrong. You're wrong, and then you say that you're wrong, and then you're right again. You either get the pleasure of learning something new, or you get the pleasure of being right.
That's what we're doing. Oops. And then I pressed the wrong button again. The win.
Win.
There we go. So we're looking for where we're wrong, our problems that reflect our ignorance, which is an activity based on a reversion on a false model of self and reality. That's called belief. That fake model we derive from physical appearances in childhood. All human problems therefore have this as its root cause, which is nothing other than the lesser of the duads of experience or selfers. Everything that you experience, everything that you think, everything that is a whole and part, is same and different than something, is either unlimited or limited, is either in rest or motion, is like something and unlike something, is either out of time or in time. It's the union of the two in the highest possible sense that we reflect on for the model of thinking. That's understanding. And the model itself is knowing. Knowing, or nous in Greek. Therefore, our fake model has a fake idea of what it means to be a knower, which usually is sadistic. Because you can't create with belief, you can only hurt with belief. You can only punish people. If you don't know how to teach music and you're a substitute music teacher, you can't help anyone learn music. But I was talking to a teacher one day. He said, well, you know what? I can trick everyone to thinking I'm knowing by asking them what they're working on and just insult what they're doing. Pretty fucked, but pretty indicative of what it means to do a belief or to be a believer. It's all do as I say or else, or everything you're doing is bad. You are a sinner. You are evil. You're a heathen. You're a goyim. You're a heretic. You're a infidel. You're a etc. etc. All these words that imply a bad self and a bad mind. Necessary, otherwise the parts would move into the whole. So our beliefs are in direct opposition, fighting against goodness and the good, oneness and the one, truth and the true, fighting against beauty, justice, etc. So our job is to find out where we're wrong, guided by our dreams, to find out the root origin of the cause of our wrongness, our false beliefs, and sacrifice or let go of, using that the language of how each moment lets go of the now to become the one in the instant. And then the instant is, what was the word? The instant, let's find it in the book. Let go. Sorry, that's interesting. To keep a question, to ponder it, and not to let go of it is the doorway to the true life of the soul. So how can you have these sorts of questions that we are bringing to birth about the nature of self and reality, self and mind, and the highest use of our activity, thinking? How can we not let go of that in the moment where The one and the many, or the all, because the many is all that is, are successive, so that in becoming one, the many is let go of. The moment is let go of, the now. And when becoming many, the one vanishes. So there's a vanishing of the instant without qualities, the one, in becoming the many in each moment, and a letting go of the many in becoming one. So our job is to let go of the many, while at the same time not letting go of your question. Can you keep a question while letting go of the all? Well, Xenophanes' question. Remember, in the lineage of philosophy, which is not on the board, let's write it. Know thyself has to start the game, because for anything to be meaningful, it has to be about knowing yourself. We have Homer, not from The Simpsons.
All right, enough.
Who gave us the Iliad, gave us the models, gave us Achilles. Even the worst person can complete this journey. Odysseus, even the wise have to review and remove their problems. Odysseus. And giving us the ultimate, the ideal man, Hercules. And even greater than that, the ideal woman, Penelope. Because women have to see through the ignorance and recognize the level of wisdom of men, because they have to win the battle without joining the fight. In other words, women have a lot more disadvantages and odds stacked against them in the bullshit patriarchy. Homer, following him, we have Xenophanes, who gave us a question that we can hold on to, even as we let go of appearances, especially considering we recognize that all appearances, it's way away, let's move it over. All appearances, physical appearances, are the parts that are not the whole. The many, that's not the one. It's a image, a moving image of eternity or mind, created by the instant or the self, mind, appearances. Or the instant, the one, being, the eternal model of pure being and becoming. So in our quest to know the whole self, the self that's the whole self that's one is seeing, hearing, and thinking. Right now. And we need to hold on to a question even as we let go of everything else. Appearances, the many, the all. We need to hold on to a question, because to hold on to a question and not let it go is the doorway to the life of the soul. And to be on a quest. After Xenophanes, we got Parmenides and Diotima. an enlightened Penelope-like woman. Master of the Logos who is female, so there goes sexism out the window. Parmenides says you need dialectic for that. To know the whole self that's one, that's seeing, hearing, and thinking right now. And also, therefore, to become excellent like Hercules or Penelope, you need the dialectic. Diotima said, and by the way, this is the model for the ideal relationship too. This quest to master the dialectic in seeking the whole, which is experienced as pure beauty, the model. So we can say that model is beauty itself, and in seeking it, it's the ideal therefore love and logos is the model for ideal relationships. In other words, this seeking to know the model of beauty itself and the self, which is the cause, which is also experiencing it, experiencing all sight, hearing, thinking, but also, as we've been seeing, generating it. The seeking of union with your beloved is perfected through understanding or logos, is a model for ideal relationship. So Homer, Xenophanes, Parmenides, and Diotima both taught Socrates. The big dog. And Socrates says...
The problem is that you...
Here we go.
He says, here we go. Socrates says...
The more holes, the better.
The more holes, the better.
So, like, not only have you been wrong on like 3 or 4 different things at once, which is already offensive enough, but you did it in the most annoying way.
That's okay.
So, like, not only have you been wrong on like
4 trillion people are still going to listen to this.
Because 4 trillion people will even listen to this. But let's try and get it become right. He says, hey, dreams. Dreams are necessary. Only through reflecting on your dreams, says Socrates, can you find what you need to solve your problem and perfect your wisdom to know the self. Dreams necessary. He says that in the Republic, by the way. You can follow the logos along and develop understanding only to a point where your path or logos, false image of reality and self, surfaces to block. That's why it's a problem. It blocks your development. The movement from our ignorance or beliefs into mind and self is what is blocked. Necessarily for a problem to be a problem. Therefore, if we develop our self and our mind and our understanding the activity of mind, self and some curious use of understanding up here we're still wondering about. What's the natural activity of the self? How is that understanding different from this understanding? We know the understanding down here is to use language in debate to say that there is no model, it's all just opinions. The establishment left, there is no model. let the fascists take over. And the fascists are the believers, the ones that are aligned to their false belief of that they know this when they don't. So as we perfect our logos or understanding through the dialectic, applied to mind and even its source, the self, our false beliefs and negative patterns of thinking will block that. That's what a problem is. And Socrates in the Republic says you will only be able to surface what you need to see about the cause of your block from childhood, the origin, and the effect that block has played in your whole life to understand enough your block to become free of it or let go of it, just as our job is to let go of the all in the moment to transition through the brilliant light of being into the one, to go up, which can happen in each moment depending on how much we let go of our false beliefs about self and reality. As we read earlier, those who experience this brilliant light of being in this intersection in the middle here recognized the only thing that prevented them from seeing it was the fear of losing the self. But in that experience, you recognize that image of the self was false. What we want to do is dissolve it by recognizing that not only is it false, it's the cause of our problems, and we can see where it came from. And it was a kind of solution to your upbringing, or allowed you to survive your upbringing in a certain kind of a way. So it was a solution to a problem that isn't true and no longer works, no longer relevant, or redundant, just as what we are about to see is all other ways of being other than what we are about to discover are all themselves redundant. So, and by recognizing that all of our problems comes from a false image of the self and a false belief about reality, and our functioning is in opposition to this kind of self-reflection or recursiveness, because I'm not the self, I'm a small bean or a bad noodle. My mind can't know everything. I just have to believe what I'm told by my boss or my dad or my mum or my preacher or my minister or whatever the fuck. Bullfuck. It's not true. To that we say...
You just blow in from Stupid Town?
That you blowed in from Stupid Town if you say that.
I don't know if you know this, but like weird dudes exist everywhere.
Because weird dudes who try and get you to believe this shit exist everywhere.
Brain rot escalates.
This is what brain rot comes from. We want to dissolve, we want to understand our false image of the self and false beliefs of reality and ourselves. So we can let go of the moment without any fear of losing the true self. And that's what's needed to dissolve the blocks that come up in our development of logos or understanding, which happens through the dialectic. So we are also perfecting the art we're here to master, the dialectic. All this from the book, and all this makes sense. There ain't no opinions here. Pretty neat. Oh, and Socrates says you won't be able to do that unless you do dream analysis. That's Socrates. Homer, Xenophanes, Parmenides, Socrates, and then we killed Socrates. Then we have Plato's tradition. He started the academy. The first universities in Greece. Academy. And then after him came Proclus, Plotinus, and Damascius. He was the last one. Proclus helped added more content to the dialectic. Plotinus, I think what we have from Plotinus was the notes from his students, and he talked a lot about what it feels like to go through this development, to experience the light and maybe even the self. And Damascus recognized the significance of dreams but failed to integrate it. That's the Plato tradition. And then after Damascus came Emperor Justinian, which is the Dark Ages. He doesn't get to be in white. He gets to be in this color. Christian. Christian. Oops. Christian. Damn it. There we go. Oh. My headphone jack is a bit funny. Gotta make sure it sits right so I can hear myself. Christian Emperor Justinian, sometimes known as...
Oh my fuck.
I was gonna say Fuckface McGee. So that was a pretty good drop. Fantastic drop.
Awesome, man.
Christian Emperor Justinian. Who killed everyone because he was a fuckface and wanted to oppress people through the cause of human problems, ignorance, brought in the Dark Ages. Around 529 AD. But we are not going down that line. Of course, from Plato, we have another branch, Aristotle, who rejects everything, rejects mind and self, and brings in materialism. So that's the functioning of belief in opposition to true mind and self. Materialism. And it's these two jabronis together, that's modern academia, or modern philosophy. No, it's not philosophy, is it? The moderns. Modern education is the tradition of Aristotle and Emperor Justinian. Therefore, no mind, no self, no solving problems. In other words, we are on a road to human destruction. Human extinction. So notice that ain't no philosophers at no university solving problems. Still got capitalism, still got fascism, still got Nazism, still got mass oppression, still have trillionaires and billionaires hoarding all the resources to exploit people, injustice at every level. Human extinction. So the tradition of religion or belief and materialism what we can recognize as belief, the fake model here, and its activity, materialism, Aristotle and Justinian. That's the lineage, and we can recognize it as the two elements of ignorance and human suffering and problems. What we are saying is, hang on a second, hold your horses, because Homer, Xenophanes, Parmenides and Diotima, Socrates, and our author, Pierre Grimes, P-I-E-R-R-E, Pierre Grimes, that's our author. He wrote this book. wrote this book, giving us the four elements of the art of dialectic, philosophy, or metaphysics, study of mind, philosophical midwifery, how we use all of these are the dialectic, so this is the dialectic of the dialectic what's true, how do we remove what's false, both dream analysis. So perfecting wisdom, removing our false beliefs, both through dream analysis and sharing or mythology. This book. This book is the sharing of what we need to recreate the dialectic, because we have to apply it to our excellence. We have to remove what's false. We have to do dreams to do both of those things, which is all of the teaching from Homer through Xenophanes, through Parmenides and Diotima, who taught Socrates, Pierre. This book, which means the next one is you, my friend. You! Yay, that's you saying yay. Let's just say happy face. That's you. That's our lineage. From the book. Of course, when we killed Socrates, Plato dropped midwifery and dream analysis, which meant he lost what we need to solve human problems. Therefore, when he had a student with a problem, Aristotle, who was very intelligent, his nickname was the Brain. His nickname for modern philosophers was the Philosopher, showing our problem. Because Socrates lost this and this because he was only 20 when we killed his teacher. He lacked what we need to solve human problems. Therefore, Aristotle, who had a problem with metaphysics, well, all of this, stuck down in materialism, wasn't able to escape. That's why I was kicked out of the university. So that's the Roman tradition, which became the Third Reich. The appointment of materialism or the union of materialism and Roman imperialism with the church. The Nazi, Third Reich, who are still doing their thing to this day, which means we can recognize why that's happened, how fucked it is, its origin, and how we can go back to this lineage, which is you. Save the day, you, from the Nazis. That's where we are. Historically. Pretty neat.
I don't know if you know this, but like weird dudes exist everywhere.
Weird dudes exist everywhere, and now we can see where it came from.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
I thought so. Okay. Homer. Even the worst can do it, Achilles. Even the wisest have to remove their problems too. You need both midwifery and philosophy. Achilles and Odysseus are the stories of that. I saw a YouTube video today about someone complaining about the anime trope. Deku from My Hero Academia powers up when a loved one dies in front of him or something like that. That sounds just like what happened to, I don't know, lots of animes. Naruto, probably. Goku, definitely. Can't remember what the actual video was on. Yeah, definitely Naruto. Anyway, and the guy was saying, no, it's an old trope. It's an old trope. This is the origin. Achilles was stuck in his problem until his best friend Patroclus died because of his issue, which caused Achilles to say, holy crap, I better level up. I better engage in dream analysis and midwifery to surface my problems and free them, considering it caused the death of my best friend here. That was the beginning of his hero's journey. Which then became a trope in all anime. So around 800 BC, we have the OG shonen anime happening. And another trope from all anime is, hey, even the wise people, even Naruto or Goku's teachers all have problems. That makes them interesting. That's Odysseus. The drunken master, the pervy sage, the gambling addict, Hokage. Goes all the way back to around 800 BC. Some people say even further back. Maybe even 1,000 years further back. I don't know. Internet tells me 800 BC, but I've heard people say 1800 BC. So the anime tropes that we see in all animes that people online complain about derivativeness is from Homer. Not only are they from Homer, they're all derivatives of this very thing that we're understanding. Not the hero's journey, the self's journey. Heroes are just a personification of the soul's quest to move from the moment or the now through mind or the brilliant light of being into the instant or gap where the self is. That's the all or the many moving into the one. That happens at each instant. Hercules is someone who is straddling both worlds, as is Penelope. Or these are the ideals, someone who has their state of mind in the brilliant light of being, they're functioning in time, in the moment or the now, and their self in the gap. And Penelope is one who's not only able to do that herself, but can recognize all the issues of everyone else. So she's not going to share her life or her bed with anyone who's perfect, unless they are perfecting themselves, like Odysseus does in his story. It's Homer. OG anime story. Everything is a derivative of Homer because Homer is a mythology of the human quest. When can I become a man? Well, you have a task to develop the excellence of a woman like Penelope, which is even more difficult under even greater odds than Hercules. Once you realize that the only thing keeping you in time or attached to it, your problems, your false model of self and reality, and your problems is a false model that you've derived from belief, from physical appearances. And as soon as you realize that image of yourself and your belief about reality isn't real, and you let go of it by perfecting your understanding of this model here, the model of time, you can let go of your attachment to your images of yourself and reality in the moment or the now, which allows you to let go of the all or the manyness and allow mind to separate from your physical senses, physical body, experience the brilliant light of being, pure beauty, where you recognize yourself as eternity, and you say to yourself, oh my God, why was I attached to that physical form? But can you, while letting go of the many, of the all or the many, can you hold on to a question, which is the quest? Carry a question in this way is the quest, because then you can transition through the brilliant light, which is the model of everything experienced as bliss. Don't stay in the Isles of the Blessed, because you can even move back through that to the self and know yourself, which is the instant, which is beyond, which is transcendent of all qualities and the cause of all qualities. And you know what that instant does in that gap? Instantly knows the model, the whole, instantly knows all of the parts, all things and all souls, so it can keep a continuum in creation of the next moment. That's the flashing nature of reality, like a film strip, giving us the illusion of motional change, when every moment is moving in or emerging out of and returning to the self. That's the ideal. To recognize yourself as the one without, the whole without parts, the one without qualities, in the instant, how your state of mind in that state of being the model of the whole and functioning through understanding and the dialectic most appropriately for each moment. And spam.
But you shut up. You shut the hell up for a second. You're not real.
You're not real spam.
I hate to have to tell you this. That was fake. That was AI.
So we got some AI spam in chat like we get every day. Let's just delete that. Delete and ban.
Weird business, because it's like, you know, a bunch of stupid little robots trying to spam everybody to sell crap.
Sell crap. Stupid business.
Further fill the internet with spam and AI slop.
I'm doing wonderfully. How are you doing, Sus? And we said, hey, by the way, this model that accounts for our self, our mind, and our ideal functioning that we can have in each moment that reflects reality, you won't be able to verify this model unless you're doing dream analysis, because the specific parts to remove your attachment to your false beliefs and to perfect your understanding of this model through reading the text, only that guidance only comes from your dream maker, because it has an intelligence that is this, far extending beyond your own. Imagine the intelligence the dream maker has to create every dream for every person and every moment so appropriately. Listen to that. By the way, that activity of reflecting on your dreams is taking your waking life and using it to reflect on the gap, your dreams. So it's a kind of yoga at the same time. And by the way, as we do that, we can reflect on what the dream maker must know to function like it does, because that's the ideal self we're aiming for, according to this model. So dream analysis has that multi-pronged spiritual benefit. It's a
win, 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 and it's a win, 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 win,
it's a win, 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 win.
Oh, enough of this crap, you know?
And that's where we ended from Socrates. So Hercules saying you can do it. Xenophanes says, by the way, that whole of self, that's one that we are recognizing is in the gap, the instant, is also what is seeing and hearing and thinking right now in the moment. Parmenides came along and said you need the dialectic to see that and to apply to your false beliefs to remove them. Diotima said, yep, and you know what? That desire for that model is your desire for beauty itself, because the model of everything all at once is beauty itself. But even that is a starting point for the development of true excellence, that model of the whole, that's pure beauty, experienced as bliss, dwelling in the isles of the blessed. Beauty itself, or truth. Therefore, that's the culmination of love. That's what love's about. That's what you're seeking in love. By the way, that's just a starting point for the development of true excellence or beauty. So he says, hey, by the way, you know how Xenophanes says there's the whole? There's two kinds of whole. And you know how Parmenides says you only get it with the dialectic? There are two things you apply it to. You've got this, the whole of all parts, the same of all differences, the unlimited of all limits, the out of time that accounts for everything in time. That's beauty itself. That's the truth of reality. But there's another model from that. You have to go on to the truth. If that's the truth here, the true that causes truth, true reality, true beauty, true excellence. That's to become a friend of the gods and immortal as any person can be. And by the way, this development of the dialectic or understanding to reach those two models is also the model for relationships. So if you find yourself a girl or a guy who has a good heart and a good head, you can have this model as the third person in your relationship. That's what relationships are for. To become Penelopean or Herculean, to know the whole self, that's also one. Diotima. Then Socrates was taught by Parmenides and Diotima and said, hey, by the way, you can't do any of that unless you have dreams, unless you're doing dream analysis. And we know that because 2,500 years later, Pierre Grimes came along, rediscovered all of this, and wrote this book. And then that's us reading this book. So in reading this book, we have come to an understanding of why dream analysis is necessary for those two models Diotima talked about, that we get through the dialectic that Parmenides outlined for us to know the one that's and the self and the whole that's seeing, hearing, and thinking right now that Xenophanes talked about, to allow us to become Herculean or Penelopean, as Homer talked about the OG anime. The OG anime, the main anime tropes we see in Odysseus and Achilles. It's where we are. Within history and within the book. Because this book is what we're reading. And so now we also see where the book is within the lineage of thought. Freddie Nate. What do you say, Sus? Are you still there? How's it going? How's your world? Any questions that you've been pondering? So, that's where we are. And then Jesus said, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. By the way, so in this way, by studying our dreams, we can verify this model, and also participate in it ourselves. The way the one becomes the all, and the all becomes the one. Right now, and then now, and then now, and then now. Until eventually it sounds like this. This is right.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let's go ahead. So, the next step. That's the previous steps. What's the next step? Hey, by the way, there could be a new follower within that series that has a view that goes beyond both of our positions. So that Socrates and Jesus would be a follower of this new class of being, this new unified way of being for all of mankind. So we would be followers of this new candidate, says Socrates to Jesus. A new category that may doom all others. Pretty cool. What are you proposing must mean that there is a new vision, there's a vision of a new kind of metaphysics, and just maybe a new philosophy. That's where we are. Fuck. Hang on, I spilled. Holy shit. All right, be right back. So what we're saying is, for there to be anything that exists, there has to be some first cause that doesn't have qualities to cause qualities, or the one has to cause many. Or the whole has to cause parts. The same has to be different. Meaning this Venn diagram of a pair of two units have to exist for creation. One is the greater, the whole, one is the lesser. And if this is the model for everything, creation, each moment, there is a oneness or an instant, and then there's a manyness in creation, every thought, every dream. This is also the model for time. There's the instant, which has no qualities, or is a one that's not, so this Venn diagram that which has the one that's not parts, a pure one, a pure whole that's not parts, a pure same that's not different. That's the instant. It has to travel through a model of the whole so it knows how to direct each moment. Not only direct it in as a continuum, but give you what you need for your development. So there's a caringness and intelligence and a care in universe. That's the model of everything, or pure mind, experienced as you can experience it if you turn your mind around and know itself. That's bliss, beauty itself. The beauty that we're attracted to, that allows us to recognize beautiful streamers and people. But it has to go from the instant through the whole of all parts. This is the over section here, the intersection where whole and parts meet, into the parts. And if this is the model for every moment, every thought, it also has to apply to the model of everything, including personal development. Meaning there's a stage of human functioning that's a part, that's not the whole. That's belief. But the thing about human functioning is we all desire the good. There is that desire that allows us to be compelled towards seeking the model of everything, pure beauty, and the self, the instant, that knows everything all at once. That's the cause of everything, and that's experiencing everything. So in other words, the lesser, the part here, that's not the part, this part section here of the Venn diagram, but this section of it here that's not connected with the whole, why would we be there? Why would you want to be the lesser, not touching the greater? considering we seek goodness, which exists here, and the good, which exists here. In other words, for there to be this model that also applies to people, there has to be some stage of human development, some use of your mind and your soul that fights against goodness here and fights against the good or the one self here. Otherwise, the lesser would always join with the parts. There wouldn't be a difference. There wouldn't be a manyness in terms of how it applies to states of being. So necessarily, our false beliefs have to tell us that our mind is crap, or there is no model, or you can't be enlightenment. You can't know everything all at once. You can't know what happens when you die. Everyone says that. And they're all fucking ignorant. They're all wrong. Also, these people who say that act like they know shit they know nothing about. That's belief. That's also materialism. The establishment Dems, the people who say there's only a physical world, all problems are about brain chemistry. That implies there's no model of the whole between each moment, and no instant where you can know everything instantaneously in the gap. But what we're saying is, no, there has to be an opposition to the greater, otherwise there would be no room for the part. Which is why believers act against their own interest. That's why we philosophers are a rare few. That's why I was banned from Emma's Majority Report Twitch chat.
That one's perfect. And you're a baby. You're a little baby.
That's the Twitch moderators are little babies.
That's anti-feminist in some way.
Because even though I was sharing understanding and about the model, which is beneficial to everyone in principle, they said, no, I would rather pretend to know what you're talking about as a believer and ban you without actually understanding anything you're saying. That's why people are fucked in the head. They're barbarians or stupid. As a necessary stage of human development that has to exist in opposition to mind and self, or goodness and good. Our job is to recognize that and let go of any belief of ourselves and any attachment to thinking. So there's the model of belief and our thinking or activity based on that model. Let go of anything that's in opposition to the model of the whole between each moment and the instant, which is the gap. So we can know ourselves and function most ideally through the model to ourselves and others. And the best way of verifying that is your dreams, because your dreams has a darkness or an emptiness when you sleep, and then out of that comes a drama. That's your dream. And then when your dream ends, it reverts back to the instant or the emptiness. But that drama perfectly reflects the model of the whole. So it uses the model, knows the model to create your dreams. And your dream perfectly represents your task or what you need to see to let go of your belief and activity in opposition to mind and self, your false beliefs about self and reality, and what you need to perfect your understanding about the model so you can be open to experiencing it in each moment, like that. But also keep a question about the self so that even in that brilliant light of being, you don't get attached to it and think, oh, that must be the self because it's the most real thing I've ever experienced. Because it has to have a cause. There has to be this part of the Venn diagram that's the whole that isn't even touched by the parts. That's the question. That's what it means to be on a quest. That's the hero's journey, to keep that quest, hold on to that quest, wonder about that question, even when you let go of everything else. Such that even in the profoundly illuminating divine light of pure being, beauty itself, you can keep that question to move into the instant. this reflection on the gap between each days is dream analysis. You're reflecting on what you were thinking when you were sleeping. That's a gap. By seeing how dreams come to be like this, you are also understanding how each moment, each thought comes to be. But also by looking at the content of your dream, you're getting the specifics you need to see where you got that false belief and harmful activity. That's the cause of all your problems. So you can not just let go of it, but dissolve it by seeing it for what it is. So dream analysis is necessary for all of this as an activity, as the specific content, but also you're learning about what kind of ideal functioning the dream maker has from that gap through that model. So you're learning about your own true excellence of self. So it's like those isekai animes where you have to level up and there's some godlike figure guiding you in everything you need to do on the hero's journey to level up. But then eventually at the end of the anime, you realize that that guiding force was your future self at the end of your journey. Isekai god, as an anime trope. That's your dream maker. So it seems, but again, you won't be able to verify this through your own direct experience unless you do dream analysis. That's where we are. From Homer, you can do it. Xenophanes, it's the self that's the whole and the one is watching right now. Parmenides, you need the dialectic to do it. Diotima, by the way, there are two models. That model of the whole of all parts, and that's mind and beauty itself, and true excellence, which is the whole without parts. And by the way, seeking that is the model of all good relationships. And then Socrates says you won't do that without dreams. And then Pierre Grimes came along and wrote this book, and that's us. That's our lineage within the history of thought. You're not sure if you got the job. Oh, well, I hope that you get the job if you want it. And I hope it's wonderful. That's where we are within the history of thought. And that's where we are in the book too, because right before I did a spill, we were reading Socrates and Jesus say there might be a new class of man that even Socrates and Jesus would be a follower of. And a new way of being that makes all other ways of being redundant. That's where we are. So you came at a good time. That's what she said.
Literally no one has ever experienced joy ever.
Oh, really? Nobody?
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
That's for my joke.
I've been a bad little girl.
But I thought this was actually kind of interesting.
Yes, let's get back to the interesting stuff, shall we?
Okay, go ahead.
So a new category that may doom all other categories of man. A view that goes beyond what has come before us. A new vision of a new kind of metaphysics and a new philosophy. And then Jesus says, I like what you do. You raise the issue to a higher level. Yes, we do. We rule. We're awesome.
I'm a real living being.
Literally no one has ever experienced joy ever.
I'll have to think of that. I don't think that's true.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder, dude?
Right here. Sorry, I'll stop with the sound drops. I like what you do. You raise the issue to a higher level. Then I will have to be careful how I represent this new candidate, as you call him. I do think I have a way of going. What if I cite the major ideas of our candidate and you tell me if he belongs in your camp or mine? Surely that means I will have to do justice to what I select and offer it to you for your comments. So then, let me ask you, if a new idea of man is brought forward that clearly announces a new kind of divine man-like activity, new idea of man, a divine man-like activity, sounds nice because it seems to represent what we are seeing through dream analysis to be like the divine. Can we function most ideally through the art of dialectic in the now, with reference to the model, and instantaneously like the self in the gap, which is therefore the highest idea of God. So a divine, but also, because we're also participating in time, divine / man-like. Can we do that? Can we do it? Can we do it?
The primary purpose of pools is
Just
not to murder.
pools again.
It is for enjoyment and cooling off.
I already know that about pools.
No, you're not the one that's mentally unwell. You're brave. You are crossing into new boundaries.
I thought so. That's what I wanted to hear. That's perfect. That describes me perfectly. So, a new idea of man and a new kind of divine man-like activity. Would not that mean that the divine or God has made man to no longer reflect upon himself as man, but as a God whose activity... So the divine or God has made man to no longer reflect on himself as man, as just a many, as just a part, as just a small bean or bad noodle, but as a God whose activity is in the sphere of the new man. Wow. What is going on here, Jesus? You are approaching this problem as I would have liked to. You single out the idea of activity, as we have discussed, and link it to a very profound idea. I am always cautious about the term God, but here you advance it under a banner of a new candidate. Is it equally certain that your source also advances the idea of ousia, or substance, as we have discussed it? So we've got to have the idea of ousia, because this model knows itself in a dynamicness that is ousia, and then we have that model, and then we have the activity. So Jesus is focusing on the activity and how we can use our activity to reflect on that model, but also reflect on ourselves as God, which is that curious kind of ousia or knowingness, which we can wonder about. It's got no parts. You are correct in that, because he does use the idea of ousia or substance. Who does? Oh, this new man. Right, us. New class of men. By man, we mean mankind. So, of course, women as well. Obviously.
You just blow it from stupid town.
Don't blow in
So,
from
like, not
stupid
only have you
town.
been wrong on like 3 or 4 different talking about a bunch of slop.
That's right. I need to make some good...
Making ice cream's a good and courageous thing.
Well, you're doing your best.
Okay. I love with the sound drops. So we advance this idea of ousia, which is also a substance of pure mind and of the nature of self-knowing itself without parts. We do use the idea of ousia. The mystery behind the identity of our candidate can be further deepened as I share with you his understanding of this remarkable term ousia. Let's understand what ousia is. Please do that, Jesus. I am more than amazed and wait to hear more. I agree this term is essential to our philosophy, and to learn more of its meaning would delight me. If the idea of goodness and even godliness merely suggests that the good and God are their source, Fitz, you will fail to grasp what ousia is. Why? Because it is the power of ousia's reversion that makes others good and godlike. Our ideal functioning through the dialectic to encourage that reflection on those two models, the one here and the one here, mind and self. Encourage that reflection. questions, dialectic, understanding. While their source is beyond the very idea of source. What? Right, the idea. So if the ideas are in the model, even the idea of source is different from the source itself, which is the cause of ideas, the cause of qualities. It is this essential divine substance, or ousia, that has taken on an existence in our world, which we are guessing dialectic, understanding. However, if it takes on an existence among us, then by what means does it accomplish this? It is that which is in man. It is that which in man has been concealed and is now present as we enter into its secret ways of being. Secret ways of being?
Would you just blow in from Stupid Town?
Did we just blow in from Stupid Town?
Awesome, man.
Awesome. Let's check out this awesome new secret way of being. That which was concealed. Well, there is nothing I can say about this. I applaud to the skies what you are saying. That's us applauding to the skies. As you have said, the power of ousia brings us to reflect and turn about. Ooh. And that begins the awakening of the inner life of philosophy. So, we have been talking about, so our friend talked about jobs and stuff, everyday world stuff. And we have been talking about how do we share this, as this book is sharing it with us. How do we share the meaning of life, or the purpose of this use of thought to free ourselves from our problems and perfect our excellence with everyone else, so we have a better world and better people to talk to. And one of the ways is by sharing harmony, or a rationally ordered something, but also presenting it in a simple or beautiful way. You can make people curious about the nature of harmony or rationality and beauty itself. Curiosity is needed at the beginning. This curiosity can then be used to help people reflect on themselves, to turn about. It's this ousia, this power of these kinds of questions about these kinds of ideas from the model: beauty, harmony, reality, mind. That is the use of or activity of ousia that can get us to turn about on thinking itself, on self itself. That's the awakening. Oh, the name of the channel. Hooray. The awakening of the inner life of philosophy. Some sort of use or activity to generate ousia or promote. Yay, awakening. Yes, awakening.
You know, some people would chase a chimp around. Some people would devote themselves to all kind of science or art or experimentation. Who knows?
Yes, some people trace a chimp around, but we want to turn our minds around. That's the awakening of the inner life of philosophy. Maybe you like tarot. Yes. Yes, in this tarot, what are you doing? You are asking people questions that encourage them to reflect on the true nature of their lives, to see their false models that cause their problems, the true nature of their mind, to reflect upon the nature of mind or reality, or to turn around and reflect on themselves, the self. Right. The trick is, can you integrate these dialectical questions in that space of reverence that you can create with the tarot. They're interested, they're curious, they're open. They know they don't know, but they're okay with not knowing. There's no blame or shame or punishment involved. There's a reverence. These are the ideal conditions for the dialectic. The questions that can get us to reflect upon ourselves. That's the awakening of the inner life of philosophy. Yeah, reflection tool. Your Wi-Fi is bad. To your Wi-Fi, we say,
Oh my fuck.
oh my fuck. Oh my fuck. The good or the one is no longer conceived of as remote and transcendent, but near and most essential to us, as Xenophanes says, as the third hypothesis of each instant says. Everywhere we reach out to experience for the good or the one, which is of course this top one, the self, the one, that's not many, the good, that's not a goodness of parts, but good self, the one or the good, another word for the self, the instant, is no longer a remote, is no longer conceived of as remote or transcendent, but near and most essential to us. Everywhere we reach out to experience, says Jesus, everywhere we reach out to experience, we always discriminate a oneness of this or that. When I reach out to my coffee mug and not spill this time,
Literally no one has ever experienced joy ever.
when they spill things, they never experience joy.
I don't know, whatever.
I have to distinguish my coffee cup as a oneness different from the rest of my table, or else I spill. Without this ability, there would be no intellectual life and no reflection and no coffee. So you ask, what shall we say of it? The one shows itself in everything. As we reach out to every experience, we do so because we think it good to do so. So not only do we have to perceive and discriminate with our mind and with our picking up coffee mugs onenesses, otherwise you spill, otherwise you can't think. We also reach out for those things because we think it's good to do the thing. So one and good are most immediate in everything. The good. So we reach out, we think it's good to do so. The good, which we also call the one, is part and parcel of all we experience, and it is through the power of ousia we realize we are not strangers to the divine. So if we sacrifice all the limiting views of God that reflect our parents' ways of injustice, punishment, cruelty, accepting limitations, hating other families, hating whatever your family hates, in opposition to goodness and the good, we drop that bullshit idea of God, which is nothing other than a personification of your childhood beliefs onto reality projection. Then we can get the true understanding of what God must be, or the highest must be, the one or the good self. Here, the whole that's not parts, the self that's not others. Not a goodness or a oneness or truth, but the good, the one or the true. God. Or Tog. Maybe Tog. True, one, good, and self. Tog. But we recognize it's not just a ultimate goal that we're seeking and at the end of our path. We are part and parcel with the divine. We are looking for ones in every thought, in everything we reach out for. We reach out for it because we think it's good. Now, because we have a triad we have discovered the mysterious third term. We want something that's real. We don't like to be deceived. We want the real coffee. But that's not in the text, so let's keep that in the back of our mind just in case. By the intelligence that functions in and through the gap, there appears to be the moment, an instantaneous event. Oh, there appears the moment. So, through the gap, through which there is an intelligence that functions in and through. Okay, let's highlight the whole thing. There is an intelligence that functions in and through the gap. Let's get rid of this. So we want the highest intelligence, like the Dream Maker. And through it, there appears the moment as an instantaneous event, like a film thing. Square. It is this that you have spoken of many times, and it emerges from the gap. Emerges from the gap. For it is this that surrounds whatever is, yet it is not in time. So it surrounds whatever is, on both sides, or all sides really. It all, like a breath, like a dream. Dream and then sleep, and then dream and then sleep. Wake and then sleep. Wake and then sleep. Thought and then it's gone. New thought and then it's gone. Coffee and then you spill it. And then you get new coffee and then you drink it. It is this that surrounds whatever is, yet it's not in time. So it's timeless. So here we have another term for this Venn diagram. This big one, out of time or timeless. And this other one, in time. See, these are the duads, or the self pairs. Out of time and in time. This one and this one. The monads or excellences are applied to the triad. So we have what's false, what's the truth, and what's the true. Or the triad of terms. Everything we see is either a lesser, a greater, or the ultimate. Our ultimate goal, the greatest coffee mug, the greatest cup of coffee, and a lesser cup of coffee because I spilled it. Analogy is this as well. We are to Socrates as Socrates is to Diotima. And by participating in this triad, we become a whole. We become like Diotima. Pretty neat. The Lego pieces, or the building blocks of perception and understanding and reality, because it's also here, time and in time, out of time or timeless and in time. From its prior pure state, it has entered the world, and it is the very substance of our growth and of change in all things. So it's providing everything we need for our growth, so long as we play. So long as we play.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike?
Have fun playing the game of reflecting and reverting on the gap and seeing you're participating in it. It's one coffee mug and it tastes good. Has this candidate of yours said that God dwells invisibly by his own excessive brilliance in the divine luminosity? So God is even dwelling invisibly in the divine luminosity. And he's invisible because his own excessive brilliance, which must be even more brilliant than pure brilliant light. And does he say that those who are worthy come to know and see God through that divine luminosity. What's our worthiness? Well, all we've been saying is we participate in affecting reality by our change and growth, which means that reality would then give you the next thing, not just keep reminding you of the same thing you're neglecting. And that improvement of yourself is through reflection and pondering or keeping questions about these things. Not being right all the time. I have a new quote about that on the soundboard. But it's on the random one, so I need to put it on a different one. This one.
Disgusting. That's weird. That you.
No.
I don't know if you know this, but like,
No.
literally, no one has ever experienced.
No.
Moron. You
No.
like literally suck my dick, dude.
Well, that one. Okay, well, I'll have to. It's this one here. That's a different version.
There's only two options at the end of an argument. One, you're wrong, but now you always get to be right about that topic going forward, so you get to learn something, which is always a plus. Or two, you're right and you get to revel in being right.
This openness to purifying where we're wrong and gaining insight into what's true is what makes us worthy. In other words, carrying a question while letting go of everything else. While realizing that you're automatically participating in the divine because everything you see is one, everything you reach for is what you consider to be good. And you want the true version of it, ultimately. So those that are worthy can recognize that even in here, the divine luminosity or the model of thinking in here, there is the whole. See, the whole that's even beyond is still in here, but if this overlap is divine luminosity, there is an even greater brilliance than divine luminosity where the divine lives, or God, self, oneself. Those who are worthy, what makes us worthy? Holding on to a question. Why? Because even in the experience of pure beauty, in your relationship, what happens? You participate with the beauty of your beloved in levels of intimacy, but even in that, you have logos. You reflect on those moments. You incorporate words into your relationship. Love and logos. So that the ultimate experience of beauty, you still have logos. You still have a question. You're still on the quest. The archetype of every anime or shonen or story. Achilles has the brilliant light of being experience on the battleground, but still has to work on himself to go beyond, to become worthy. The OG anime, Achilles. What are we doing? We're taking the text and we're seeing if it applies to the hypothesis we've been building from the text itself. We're seeing how the parts fit within the whole. God dwells invisibly, says Socrates, by his own excessive brilliance in the divine luminosity. So invisible is the self, the one self. And does he say that does this new class of man say that those who are worthy, what makes us worthy? Come to know and see God. How do we reach it? Go through the divine luminosity. Well, Socrates, he has not been hidden from you, this new class of man. Yet it has been said that Dionysus was Paul's companion. Pseudo-Dionysus. Pseudo-Dionysus was this guy. So back to our model. Homer, Xenophanes, Palm, and Diotima, Socrates. Then we killed him. Plato. Then Proclus, Plotinus, Damascus, teachers at the academy. Damascus was the last one. Emperor Justinian was coming down to kill everyone because belief, bro. Fucking sick. To you, we say...
She's like a cold-hearted cunt.
You say you're... I'm not going to say that.
You just blow in from Stupid Town?
He's just blew in. So here he was Emperor Justinian blowing in from Stupid Town, and there were some Platonic philosophers who could see what was coming, and they tried to hide Platonic philosophy in their religious text by a guy named Dionysius. Dionysius was claimed to be a companion of Paul. Of course, as we've seen what Paul is, he is someone who rejects everything about understanding, everything about what Jesus says, to say belief. You know, the thing that causes all suffering? That's good, and believe me, I'm the top believer. I'm better than Jesus, I'm appointed by God. That's Paul. That's why modern Christians are Pauline. They're not Christians, they're Pauline. So, a companion of Paul was this guy named Dionysius. Apparently. And if you read Dionysius, the letters of Dionysius, it's all Platonic philosophy disguised as belief horseshit to save the Platonic tradition from the Dark Ages and the tyranny of belief. It's called pseudo-Dionysius now because people did the math and realized he couldn't have been around at the time that he claims to be around, at the death of Jesus, as a companion of Paul. And if you have any familiarity with what we're doing, you could recognize it's all Platonic philosophy. Pseudo-Dionysius. So if you wanted to transition from your Christian upbringing into using your mind properly for your purpose to reach your destiny and truly know God, then you could say, well, actually, I am being Christian. I'm following Dionysius, and he's in the Bible. I don't know why you'd want to save your tradition. I guess it's an easier first step. So there's a YouTube video you can check out that Pierre Grimes, the author of this book, made called All Thinking Christians Should Become Platonic. That's pseudo-Dionysius, a Trojan horse to try and save the teachings of philosophy before this fuckhead came on and killed everyone and burnt everything. Just like belief-based people are doing now. That's the right wing. And Christian groups, etc., religious groups, they want to burn understanding because fuck understanding, just follow me. I want to be top dog. Obviously, just a projection of their parental role from childhood that they haven't reflected on. To that we say...
Oh my fuck.
Oh my fuck. So that's Dionysius. Just a little bit of background on that guy. Dionysius was said to be Paul's companion, says Jesus, and then... Yes, he is one of those who urge us to speak in defense of truth. And that means, does it not, doing what we are now doing. So if you are a true thinking Christian, you'd drop Paul's rejection of Jesus and pick up what Jesus was influenced by, Hellenic thought, Dionysius. You can even find it in the Bible. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
I'm too pure.
Here we go.
If it is as you say, Jesus, Dionysius, who we have called the Areopagite. Yeah, so that's another title of the guy. Dionysius the Areopagite. Let me find out how to pronounce this.
Education.com presents how to pronounce Areopagite. Areopagite.
Areopagite. Areopagite is a member of the Areopagus, a judicial and legislative council in ancient Athens that met on the hill of that name. The term also famously refers to Dionysius the Areopagite, an Athenian judge converted by Apostle Paul, and later theological writings were highly influential. And of course, that story we have since recognized as not fitting with the timeline. He was a Platonic philosopher trying to save the tradition from the impending doom of religion. Good for him. Hooray for him. If it is as you say, then Dionysius, who we've called the Areopagite, had instructed those about him on the principles of the dialectic. Wow. Is it not likely that you have learned this art for yourself and have hidden it from me? A pause often refreshes the soul, does it not? Pause in this conversation, but also an allusion to what we're seeing in our model. A pause refreshes the soul. The gap. The instant. A bit of platonic humor for us.
That's weird. That's weird. Think that. You just blow in from Stupid Town.
We didn't blow in from Stupid Town because we're seeing the funny humor. A pause refreshes the soul. So then, let me in turn ask you if you understand what this Dionysus has said about me. Then would you not say that you have come to see me as he saw me? Now, what does that make you, my dear Socrates? Obviously, Diotima, Paul's task was to reject everything Jesus said, to reframe belief as something good when it's the cause of our problems. Dionysus. Now, in the story of Mark, we see that, and in this book too, that Jesus was influenced by the Hellenics understanders and his Jewish upbringing, just as everyone doing this is. You have your own bullshit family beliefs. Sorry. Okay. Everyone else's family beliefs and way of being a bullshit, but maybe yours too. We all have it. Okay, let's not beat around the bush. It's all fucked. It's all just our parents cosplaying the Noah. That's what religion sells. You could be the stupidest idiot, but you can feel superior and act like a sadistic Noah, sadistic in that you can't actually help, you can only harm, if you join our cult and give us your money. You can shout, "You're going to hell, you're going to hell. I'm not, I'm better, because I'm a follower of Pentecostalism," or whatever the fuck. That's MAGA. You don't have to do any work on your beliefs. You don't have to get any understanding, which it normally is required to be a Noah. You can just be a Nazi or a Proud Boy or a MAGA and say, "I'm better because I'm a white, or I'm a man, or I'm a whatever," whilst they take your money. Always the same shit. The only thing belief or right-wing politicians or religion sells is the fake, self-righteous cosplaying of superiority by the fake cosplayer of the Noah. That's all they sell. That's why they have so much money. You don't have to build factories for that. They sell ignorance. That's why it's the cause of so much injustice. That's Paul. Whereas our parents are all like that. It's not a blame game, it's just what it means to be human. Meaning, just as Jesus in the story of Mark is at war between understanding of the Hellenic tradition and his Jewish religious upbringing, in the end he falls on the ladder and causes his tragic end. A tragic hero story. A pathetic hero story, because a tragic hero realizes his flaw at the end. Too late, but he realizes that he caused this problem. The story of Mark, he doesn't do that. He blames God. Whereas Dionysus would probably give a better account that's more in the Hellenic tradition, considering that's who he was. A better account of Socrates. Jesus is asking here, do you see me more like Dionysus, the Areopagite, or pseudo-Dionysus, because it was fake, saw me? I am not far off if I say you either learn very quickly or you have had this dialectical ability all along, you sneaky Jesus. So what shall I say? Before I say what I think, I would rather have you discuss further what you can say about our friend Dionysius the Areopagite. I would like you to review whatever you have seen about this idea of the dialectic or logic. Well, it's more than logic, but let's keep going. Recall that in Mark's gospel that we were just talking about, we've got that story. The keys to solving the esoteric parables. Well, this is big. The keys to solving the esoteric parables for the passage to the kingdom of God were limited to the inner circle of disciples and their colleagues. In other words, only the special beta testers of the game was given the key to open the door to the second stage of the video game. In other words, understanding what? Analogies, like the dialectic. But to the many, they can be believers. Let them believe in horseshit. Only our special in-group has the teachings of how to solve the parables. That's a passageway to the state of mind called the kingdom of God. Now, the word barbarian for these Hellenics was to take it literally. There's actually a kingdom of God in the sky or somewhere. Insane, but there you go. Some people think that even today, because they're Pauline. The kingdom was not in heaven, but on earth. There we go. There's the difference between listening properly and being a barbarian, taking it literally. Not in the future, but in the present. State of mind, right? It is the result of training the mind to see a solution to each parable. There we go. For Dionysius the Areopagite, the kingdom of God is open to all those capable of participating in it. Like the instant. The experience itself is that of grasping truth and reality. Fitting our model so far? The light in the instant is reality or mind, or the truther. You have truth on the board somewhere? Here you go, truth, because we have here's the model and activity for each of those three levels. But we can also say lesser, greater, ultimate, or false, the truth, or the truth. The kingdom of heaven, therefore, is the truth. State of mind. Open to those able to participate in it, and your ability to participate is to perfect understanding through the dialectic, which you can use to solve his puzzles. As we are doing, as we're reading, we're literally doing this. We're solving the puzzles of the book through understanding and the use of the dialectic. Pretty neat. Book's a banger. The experience is grasping truth and reality. It unfolds a well-being and goodness from the good. The unfolding of the whole without parts into the whole of all parts. So, we're further perfecting our understanding of this model. This overlap here is the unfolding of the good here into a goodness. Well-being or goodness. Pretty neat. Clearly, Dionysius expresses this idea of the kingdom of God into a higher and more cosmic philosophical idea. And in this movement, he brings his idea of Christianity into a Platonic vision of reality. There we go. So you can even save Christianity if you take his interpretation over Paul's. Also fits with Mark. Also fits with the first couple of lines of John before he descended into his problem. His vision was deeply indebted to Proclus. And he brought into existence a way to understand the transfiguration. A brilliant light experience, key experience in his life story. And how that experience links all those philosophical terms into a unity. Dionysius's writings gave the opportunity to embrace reason and understanding. Hooray! As the natural corollaries to the mystical experience. Now, I don't know what collieries mean. Collieries
Talking about a bunch of slop.
sounds like a bunch of slop. Collieries,
Whore.
I say,
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted. Unbelievable slut. It's sad. And I'm whore much. I don't know if you know this, but like weird dudes exist everywhere.
I have some new drops. I was trying to get to them. Maybe I need to make a second button for new drops because I want to press them. Those are the old ones.
You just blow in from Stupid Town.
Yeah, Stupid Town's a new one. Collieries. A natural or consequence. Natural, direct or natural consequence. Right, collieries, right. So this mystical experience we have recognized within our model of using our understanding through the dialectic, solving puzzles, which means holding a question, reading a book like this where you can solve analogies, or following, you know what's a puzzle? Every dream you have. Solving the puzzle of your dreams through the ordered steps of the dialectic is therefore what Dionysius says Jesus was talking about, and Mark as well. Not Paul, fuck him. And what that is a way of preparing yourself through these questions, and the development of understanding through solving puzzles brings them together, opening you up to the kingdom of heaven as a state of mind in every moment. You have the potential to experience it. Why every moment? Because we've been seeing that it also exists here as the transition to each moment. Not to trap you. What does that mean?
Already offensive enough, but you did it in the most annoying way.
Your phone is charged.
She's like a cold-hearted cunt.
Wow. Whoops.
Please end kink shaming on your show.
Let's end it on our show. We will. So, Dionysius's writings give us the opportunity to embrace reason and understanding as the natural corollaries or a consequence of the mystical experience. As you experience that mystical experience here, as you move from parts to the whole through questions and dialectical approach to analogies or puzzles such as our dreams or this text, you are making yourself worthy for experiencing the model of mind itself all at once, which is the brilliant light of being, or the kingdom of heaven, if you want to use that analogy. But we want to hold on to that question and that use of dialectic, even in this potentially overwhelming experience, because it's the most profound, so we can move through it as a gateway to God or self or the one self. The one. Not to trap you, I mentioned it last time. Can you say more about him?
But I thought this was actually kind of interesting.
Isn't this interesting? The one, yes, the one. The one that's not many. And what Dionysius is saying is, hey, if you can experience the one and the many together, that's a oneness or divine luminosity. So like one question. A question on the one. Nice. How does one define oneself? That's what we want to do. We see that all our problems is a consequence of giving ourselves a false belief-based definition of ourselves. So we want to remove that false definition, and what we are working on is using understanding to define the self properly as the one self, the good self, the true self, or equally so the whole that's not touched by parts, or the ultimate God. And this question about how do we accurately use our understanding about to define the nature of self, and our use of the understanding and the dialectic to answer that question is a preparation to turn about and experience it. That's the transfiguration or spiritual or mystical experience here, that crossover, whole of all parts. And as a result, or the afterglow of your everything or the all is a consequence of the one. So through time, there is the instant that functions through the model all at once to create the moment. So the all is nothing other than everything that exists in moments. Or using our film strip model of moments in time, the instant emerges into the now. Here's the now, here's the instant. Should put the instant before. So these questions that we're holding on to, the use of the dialectic to reflect on them and understand these questions, and carrying our questions and our use of dialectic as we let go of all else is our transition into the brilliant light of being, and keeping our questions and our dialectic there because we've learned and nurtured it into our soul, the only things you can take with you. Therefore, whatever the meaning of life has to be some sort of learning and nurturing of your soul. You can't take your physical things with you. There's learning and nurturing of holding your questions and wonder, using understanding and the dialectic to reflect on them, is the method of transitioning through or preparing yourself for the brilliant light of being, but also transitioning through that model, the second last or penultimate model of beauty to beauty itself, or the one itself, which is the instant, which is the cause of all qualities, but is itself a pure one. So not knowing yourself as a one of all parts, but as a one without parts. A kind of pure naming or accurate naming of the self. So not only is this true of Hellenic thought or philosophy, it's also can be found within Christianity so long as you look to Dionysus. And also the story of Jesus' life in Mark shows what happens if you don't reflect with understanding on that mystical experience and you don't address your false beliefs from childhood. Because when Jesus has this brilliant light experience, unlike Achilles, who goes on to perfect himself to true excellence, Jesus becomes attached to his Jewish beliefs and identifies with Elijah and wants to be the next king of the Jews, etc. So it's a cautionary tale. The harm of belief. Which is the irony, considering modern Christians don't listen, they venerate belief. The very thing his life is a cautionary tale about. Instead, let's look to Dionysius, who says, hey, by the way, it's through questions and understanding of and use of the dialectic that you prepare yourself for this. The consequence of the mystical experience, or in terms of loving relationships, after your blissful experiences in the afterglow, reflect and understand, because that's how you develop perfection. And Dionysius says, hey, that's what a loving relationship, that's the ideal of a relationship, because on those high experiences, including divine luminosity, reflect on it, love and logos, to go on to know yourself as God. So this new way of being is what they're calling an activity of man to know himself as God. Or what did they say? Divine/man-like activity. And recognize that all human problems are a consequence of rejecting that. So a religious believer who has been told from a kid, hey, just believe me, don't see yourself as God, will say that's heresy. How dare you? I speak for God, says Paul, says your parents, says the king, says the politicians, says the clergy. Oppression, in opposition for knowing your mind as pure mind, the model, and knowing yourself as God. The shadow of which is the model, and it's through that model each instant creates each moment, and your dream maker crafts each dream. A new class of man who's reflecting on himself as the divine, as God. Through questions, which are fun. And the dialectic, which is cool. Fun and cool. Interesting new model of man that makes everything else stupid and redundant. Everything else we say,
Whore much.
and we say,
You moron. You absolute fucking buffoon. You goddamn idiot.
that's a good one. All other ways of being that doesn't embrace understanding, to awaken knowing, and to move beyond that through questions and dialectic as a way of being, to know the self, or have as a whole the instant without qualities, the model or the whole of all parts, and to participate most excellently to encourage that same self-reflection in everyone else in the moment. The instant, the model, the moment. The gap, the light, the now. And then from the now, letting go of everything except your dialectical understanding and your questions, everything else as just an appearance. To go from the now, through the brilliant light of being or mind, to the self, which is beyond even qualities. Pretty neat. The now, the model, the self. The now, the light, the instant. The soul, the mind, the self. As a whole. Through what? A recursive self-reflection through questions and understanding. Meaning our purpose here is to perfect this dialectic. There's nothing other than using questions to encourage the self-reflection through understanding. The model of man. I'm going to take away your soundboard. You may never.
That's weird that you think that.
It's weird that you think
I love this guy.
Because I love this
Don't
guy
be disgusting.
too. And don't be
Hey
disgusting.
man, wouldn't some kind of future where people have all their whatever basic needs met of shelter, all this crap, and they could do whatever the hell they want, wouldn't that be good? No, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't? But that's what we're doing.
Whore.
Don't be a whore.
Would you just blow in from Stupid Town?
Blowing from stupid town. Thanks for streaming and talking about Senpai, this Senpai. Yes, thank you for joining me, and thank you for hanging out, sharing your time with me. And the more that you perfect your use of your thinking as a part about through questions that puzzle you and the structured use of thinking through the dialectic, the more that you prepare your mind for and experience your divine luminosity or bliss, recognizing yourself as eternal, overcoming your fear of death, by the way, and taking with this question and dialectic to move beyond to the cause of even that, and recognizing, hey, even that brilliant light of being is a shadow of the real. And what was the quote? Because the higher is even more perfect and beautiful. Because you can recognize where is it? Everything you do is a kind of good in one. You think and you grasp things that are one, and you do it because you think it's good. So this good in the one, that's the ultimate cause of everything, that's your goal, is also you're participating in each moment. But as you reach that, can you use your questions and dialectic to encourage others to reflect? That's awakening the power of Usia. And recognizing that this gap that's timeless, surrounds everything in time, and creates the appearance of the moment. But that God, the One Self, dwells invisibly in that divine luminosity, because the brilliance of the Self, or the One without parts, is even more excessively brilliant than the divine luminosity, which is its shadow. So you must keep a question and an enjoyment of understanding and dialectic, even in divine luminosity. Whereas Diotima says, the divine luminosity or beauty itself is just a start to the perfection or the development of true excellence. I'll try to, but me no good at thinking. Well, of course you're good at thinking. You're the only one here. You're the best. Who else can enjoy thinking as much to be in these sorts of streams? Now so I just date someone who can think for me so I can eat pancakes. Pancakes. Is it more beautiful than pancakes? Pancakes are lovely too. But this game, you can have your pancakes and eat them too. You can have whatever divine experience or beautiful experience, but in a relationship that's based on love and logos, as Diotima outlines, after everything, you reflect on them. You want to talk about the pancakes, what made them so delicious. Because understanding and self-reflection is a natural corollary to the mystical experience. After you have something beautiful, you want to talk about it. It's interesting to you. And it's your development of understanding of self-reflection on those high states of mind that allow you to enjoy the pancakes more. Wouldn't you enjoy the pancakes more after talking about it heaps with your beloved or with your friends or with anyone? That's a principle. After the mystical experience of the brilliant light of being, reflect, wonder, question about the cause even of that. So that wherever you are, whether you're in the moment or the now, reaching for one cup of coffee because you see it as good, you can see I'm participating in the one and the good. And even in the divine luminosity of mind knowing itself as ousia, turning about upon itself, hey, I'm experiencing oneness and it's really good. It brings my benefit. It's the model of justice and beauty and makes me happy. It overcomes my fear of death, diminishes my pathologos false belief. There's a oneness or goodness. Even in here, I'm participating in one and good. So there's an inherent existence of the one or good self, even in divine luminosity, but it's even more brilliant. So we walk through that with our questions and dialectic to the one or good itself. And you know what happens next? The next moment. So as this is a immersion or a return, as that is a return from the now through the brilliant light to the instant, there is an emerging as you instantaneously know the model and generate the next moment, making you God, or the dream maker, or watching self emerge and return in each moment. I'm gonna go check the mail, but put you in my pocket. Well, that's the end. I have to go to a meeting. But later on today, I will play some music. So if you're still around, check out my music channel, Jed Phoenix Music. And I'll be playing a new guitar. That'll be exciting. The question is, am I going to be using my electric guitar strings as an experiment or my new silken steel strings? I haven't decided. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've got lots to wonder about and you've seen the significance of this new way of being that dooms or makes redundant all other ones. A new way of being, a new class of man. No one's excluded, everyone's in it at every moment, and you're in it. So can you wonder about what you reach for as a one and whether you reach for it because you're good? Can you recognize the one and good inherent in that? And can you take that wonder with you even in your high experiences, high states of mind, whether it's in dreams or not, or your reflection on dreams? Can you bring those questions with you to see the one good self, the higher idea of God inherent in that. Curious? Fun? Oh my God, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, go ahead, man.
It's a lot of fun.
All
honestly.
right, enough.
They're
No,
secretly
it's not.
turned on by it.
And I bet you're all secretly turned on by it.
No, you're not the one that's mentally unwell. You're brave. You are crossing into new boundaries.
And we are crossing into new boundaries, and that's what we do every day here. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-
Feel free to like and subscribe on YouTube, Twitch, Discord. Link below if you want to donate to the channel. It is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you in the next one and good. Bye.